Okay, so I am finally on my recap video reactionness of the closing arguments done by Kirk Nurmi for the defense of the Jodi Arias trial. He starts out by saying fear, love, sex, lies, and dirty little secrets. These aspects of the human condition may not be universal, but each one of these aspects played a role in the relationship Jodi Arias had with Travis Alexander. And that was like one of his major themes that he had going on the whole closing arguments. He goes, it's your job to determine what happened between the last picture taken of him alive and Travis being drugged through the hallway. But he didn't say those words. He showed the pictures, but if I said this and this, you would not know what I was talking about. And he said drug through the hallway. I didn't say drug through the hallway. He's saying don't be driven by fear of what others might think of you to deliver your own verdict and look at the evidence. He goes, it's not about this, it's not about that, it's not even if you like Jodi Arias. 9 days out of 10, I don't like Jodi Arias. And I go, did he really just say that? And it was objected and sustained, but the fact that he said that about his own client, like, everyone was like, really? Like, maybe that wasn't very appropriate for him to do. Or to say, especially in a closing argument when you're trying to, like, fight for your client's life and you're like, oh, I don't even like her. Either she was there to kill him or she wasn't. He makes a point that the prosecution brought up her stealing the gun, but also saying that she had planned it. So he's basically saying you can't have it both ways. It's either she masterminded this plot, or she was there and she stole his gun and things happened. So he also brings up the fact that she moved away from him, while Martinez brought up the fact that she moved closer to him after breaking up. He's explaining what doesn't make sense about her plan to kill Travis. A lot of that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That was a big other theme besides the sex, dirty lies, fear, love, the little secrets, all that stuff. That was another big theme that he was going for. It doesn't make sense. And then Dr. Daniela Schreier, I think that's her name. She's a HLN. I guess correspondent, specialist, whatever. She actually tweeted. She goes, problem, Mr. Nurmi attempts to discredit the state story rather than to prove his own story of this trial. Which I happen to agree with, and it wasn't my own thoughts. That's why I give her credit. I'll put her Twitter handle in the description below. I apologize for my dog that's behind me. But I'm still going to go on. I'm not going to stop. And now I lost my place. Okay. It doesn't make any sense. Why would she do that? Again, is the theme. He's upset that my fiance has left. He spends time on how she could have used a family member's car instead of leaving a paper trail by renting a car. But if she used a family member's car, she'd have to explain the blood on the floor. She'd have explained what she was doing with the car. And the whole thing was, she didn't want anybody to know that she was going to Arizona, even though, you know, she's saying it was kind of a planned trip, and she did tell Daryl Brewer, but the prosecution is saying that she was trying to make it seem like she wasn't there. So if she was to, like, I'm gonna go through all these things that they say this doesn't make sense. Why would she do this? Why would she do that? And there's a logical explanation for all of the things that he goes, why would she do this? This doesn't make sense. And I can think of an explanation why she did this, why this happened that way. So I don't think he did a very good job of making his point. I think the state they have the burden of proof, and I think they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that she had planned it. But anyway, that's not what I want to say. I'll continue with what's going on. He keeps calling it this covert mission. If she was on this covert mission, why would she keep the receipts? If she was on this covert mission, why would she do this? Why would she do that? It's like, just because something is planned doesn't mean it's perfect. And even if it was a perfect plan, it doesn't mean everything's gonna go to plan. You know, it's not like she is some trained assassin. She's never killed anyone before. She didn't know what she was doing. It's a perfect explanation that things that she thought that she was gonna do didn't happen. But that doesn't mean she didn't plan them. He's talking about how the big paper trail she left behind by seeing ex-boyfriends and transferring money from account to account, but if she was on this covert mission, she wouldn't have done those things. She was trying to leave paper trails in every state but Arizona. That's what she was trying to do. Everyone is saying how she left a paper trail everywhere but Arizona, so she couldn't be placed there. It makes sense to me. It's almost laughable that he actually reminds the jury, yes, she is a liar. Is that really smart to continually remind the jury that your client is a liar? He continually said, yes, she lies. Yes, she's a liar. Maybe you just want to... Don't remind them. Maybe they've forgotten somehow that she's a liar. But by her own attorney standing there and saying, yes, she lies about things, and the only thing you have in this trial is the word of your client... You shouldn't be telling the jury she lies. Because they're going to be like, okay, she says these things happen, but if she's a liar, why should I believe her at all? There's no evidence. He keeps calling the prosecution's case a house of cards. A house of cards that just gets knocked down. If he was so scared of her, why did he sleep with her and take naked pictures of her in his bed? Yeah. Poor Travis Alexander made a mistake. He wanted sex and wasn't thinking with his brain. That's, people make mistakes. People have toxic relationships. And this was one of those toxic relationships. Unfortunately, he didn't listen to his friends telling him, there's something wrong with this girl, you need to stay away. Even probably in his own mind, he was like, this girl's crazy, but I can have sex with her and I don't have to tell anybody and people will still think I'm a good Mormon, and that doesn't make him a bad person. That just makes him a human being. Oh gosh, I lost my place again. Oh, he says she could have just killed him when he was asleep. I say she wanted to have sex with him and be the last one to have sex with him. I'm the last one that had him. He, kind of like he's mine. Like, I was the last one to have sex with him. I was the last one to see him in that way, to have him in that way. I just think that could be something that she was thinking. So then Vinnie Politan goes, the difference between Jodi Arias' closing arguments, defense is talking about what Jodi Arias didn't do, and the prosecution talking about what she did do. So I thought that was a good point, and I put it in there. I'll put his Twitter name in the description below too, because he's actually the guy that got me interested in this trial. I hadn't watched it right from the beginning, but he tweeted that it's going to be a day in history because a pitbull lawyer is actually going to be, a pitbull prosecutor is going to be going against his, yeah. You know what I'm saying. So then that's how I started watching this trial. Anyway, he says the pictures were not only nude pictures but graphic pictures. Why would she do that if she was just there to kill him? I say she thought deleting the pictures and throwing the camera in the washing machine would be enough to erase that evidence, obviously, but she still wanted to do those things with him. She was still obsessed with him. He puts up a picture of Travis standing in the shower with his back to her, and he says that would have been the time for her to kill him. I say he could have turned around in the standing position and not in the sitting position. The way that he was in the sitting position, he was more vulnerable than his back to her because, he could have felt her moving towards him in an aggressive way, and he could have turned around, grabbed her, and something else could have happened. And so I think that's not really a good argument. Yes, she could have done it that way, but she didn't. It didn't happen that way, obviously. She still killed him. He puts up a picture of Travis standing in the shower with his back to her. Yeah, okay, I said that. He continues to show all the pictures of Travis in the shower, saying all the time she could have done it. It was like a 5-minute period that there was different angles of him standing with his back to her in the shower. Yeah, but that's not when she did it. She waited until she was standing over him while he sat on the floor, and that's just the truth. That's not what the defense wants you to think, of course, but that's what happened. So then there's recess. Now he comes back. He asks, why didn't she shoot him first? Doesn't make any sense. We had a crime scene of chaos and a relationship of chaos. He says she was a victim of the domestic violence. I said, too bad there's no evidence of that whatsoever. It's a house of cards set it up, knock it down, color a liar. What you have to do when you don't have evidence of premeditation, which is not true at all. He says there's no evidence of premeditation. There's no evidence of domestic violence. Invalid. That's me saying that. He says just because it's not written in the journal doesn't mean it doesn't happen. A lot of time when women are abused, they don't report it. But they'll usually tell someone, or even if they don't tell anybody, their friends know. Just because no one says anything, nobody saw it on her that she was being abused, and she didn't report it anyway. So so it's really hard to say that these things happen when there's no proof. He talks about how Travis was a pedophile, and if he even confirmed it on the sex tape, but you're not to believe that it was said in the heat of passion. So, he said he made a couple comments to, like a 12-year-old girl having her first orgasm, but they were talking about, having her dress up like a little schoolgirl. It was just dirty talk. It wasn't like, oh, I actually want to hear a 12-year-old have an orgasm. Like, it wasn't literal. But that's what he tried to say. It's literal. So I guess, and then he says that Travis was a violent person. He had a punching bag. He was into MMA. Okay, so I said, oh, I guess Normie thinks having a punching bag means you're a violent person. People use punching bags as a form of working out. It doesn't mean they're violent. Even people who like karate, who like boxing, who like MMA, doesn't mean they're violent people. That's just a hobby of theirs. That's just a way of them, getting fit and getting out whatever they want to get out, but that doesn't make them violent. He talks about her dropping the camera, and that's when he got angry and held her to the floor. I have a hard time believing that all this happened because she dropped the camera on the floor. It's just not. Okay. Who does that? That doesn't make sense. If you're going to talk about things that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. I said if this is a lie, she picked the most inconvenient place for the gun. Oh, if this is a lie, she picked the most inconvenient place for the gun she could have, on the top shelf in the corner. He's talking about, she found the gun, she said she found the gun in the closet, but he's like, if she didn't find the gun in the closet there, she could have picked any other spot in the house to take it from. But that doesn't mean anything. Somebody was not going to make it out alive. It was either going to be Jodi or it was going to be Travis. And it really didn't have to come to that. Even if you're to believe her story, she had plenty of opportunity to get out of the house. She didn't have to kill him. Juan Martinez did a much better job of walking us through the murder, because he starts trying to walk you through the murder the way that they think it happened. But the thing is, he didn't really talk about that fog that she was in. So if that was like the big thing of your defense, that she was in this fog she doesn't remember, and he didn't really bring that up at all. And I said I also missed some of it because I had to take my dog out. That dog that wants to ruin the video. I said he goes, we have to face the reality. As much as the state doesn't want you to believe it, something happened in that moment in time between 5:29:20 and 5:32:16. So then we go to recess. And then, just want to scroll as well. Okay. So he goes, this morning we talked about how premeditation theory doesn't make any sense. We talked about Miss Arias' description of self-defense. We talked about how something could have happened in that moment in time. So I go, is that even a complete thought? Like, what are you talking about? That wasn't even a complete, thing, a complete paragraph or complete, synopsis of what happened in the morning session. I was like, what are you talking about? So he goes into explaining the charges in the jury instructions, just as Juan Martinez did, trying to tell them it should be manslaughter or second-degree murder, but he's pushing for manslaughter. He's trying to say that the state has an agenda to convict her of first-degree murder, but their voice is the voice of reason. He brings up his theme again: fear, love, sex, lies, and dirty little secrets. Did Jodi and Travis have a love-hate relationship? Asked a few times by a jury through jury questions. We saw expressions of love from Jodi and Travis, and he says he sure did love having sex with her, but that doesn't make him a bad person either. Maybe Jodi hated herself, and maybe Travis hated himself. There can be no doubt about the fact that this relationship was one of chaos. Yeah, they probably didn't belong together. That is understandable. So I say... Oh gosh, I lost my place. Oh, he's really gonna play the sex tape again. So he plays the part of the version of the sex tape they came up with, where they only took clips from what Travis was saying and not what she was replying back to him. So it seems a lot worse than it is. So he goes, those were the words of Mr. Alexander. Chaos, unhealthy relationship, chaos, and emotional turmoil, if you will. Yes, they probably had a crap relationship, but this doesn't mean he abused her, and it doesn't mean he should have been murdered naked in his bathroom. He just continues to read the transcript of the sex tape, saying this is supposed to be someone he is scared of, someone he calls evil. He shows a naked picture of Jodi once more. Talks about bleach or no bleach being used. Does it really matter? I don't think so. Why didn't she just take the camera? Someone makes a good point that she misplaced the camera in the washing machine when she was trying to destroy the evidence. She was also in a hurry and a panic, I'm sure. He talks about some rope on the stairs, but I don't think it matters. And of course, that doesn't make any sense. He says there was a fight, no doubt about it. A fight for life on both Jodi's and Travis's part. I said, Jodi left with a boo-boo finger and Travis was murdered brutally. Who was really fighting for their life? He says her shooting Travis after he was dead doesn't make any sense, but she's not an experienced killer. Everything doesn't make sense. The evidence makes sense, though. He says the explanation Jodi Arias gave makes more sense. Okay, the explanation she gave is full of holes and lies, so doesn't really. Here's the ultimate question Miss Wilmot started off with at the beginning of this case. What happened between here and here? Shows the last picture alive and then her dragging him, like earlier. Every time I think he is ending, he continues. He keeps talking about the same things. He started going off in different directions and then, you know, kind of going around in circles almost. He keeps saying all these things don't make sense. Why didn't these other things happen? She's never killed or stabbed anyone before, never shot anyone before. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. None of this makes sense. You're not supposed to kill other people. The whole reason why you're in court doesn't make sense. You just don't do the things that she did, no matter if it's shooting him or stabbing him. First, he goes, she could have snapped. Sudden heat of passion could account for a lot of what we have seen. With no agenda behind it, is that the most logical explanation to what happened. If Miss Arias is guilty of any crime at all, it is a crime of manslaughter. And then he ended. So, I don't know. As I said, the things, he brings, I have to give to him, he brings up good points about, what could be wrong about the prosecution, saying these things that happened, that she had planned it, but the thing is, everything he had questioned, there's an explanation for. So I don't think he did a good job of trying to prove that it wasn't planned and that she was acting in self-defense. So that is it. And I still have yet to watch Juan Martinez's rebuttal, and I will watch that, and I will do a video, and it'll be up tomorrow, which is Sunday, the 5th. And then Monday, if they reach a verdict, I will have a video up. I'll try to have like a live reaction of when they come to a verdict, whenever that may be. I don't know if it's going to be Monday or not, but if they do, I'll definitely be looking out for it. So stay tuned. Definitely subscribe if you want to be alerted when these videos are coming up. And thank you for watching.